Welcome to Storytime. I'm your host and author, Cherie Baker. Today we'll be listening to Snow Trick or Treat. Enjoy! A lone figure trudged through knee-deep snow. A miniature dachshund hopped behind them, shaking mounds of snow off of each step. A car trying to claw its way to the grocery store crabbed sideways and slid onto the edge of the walkway. The figure stomped to the inside of the pavement, putting as much distance between her and the road as she could. The Halloween storm lashed at her face, slicing it with icy crystals. It stank of roses and patchouli. October was always cold. Even a bit of sleet wasn't that unusual, but snow was just plain wrong. Someone in the coven was up to no good. The wind eased enough, a sturdy stone structure a half-block away came into view. Of course, the lights were on. Nolan never missed a day of work, or a shifty act. Even if the library was supposed to be closed, he'd be sitting in the stack somewhere. The figure picked up her little dog, tucked it in the large tote bag, and trotted across the road. Silence and a slightly musty smell wrapped around her as the door thumped close, a welcome respite from the howling gale. She peeled off her hat, shaking frozen clumps into wet puddles on the doormat. The old computer monitor's yellowing plastic case matched the color of the walls and the carpet. An aluminum trolley adjacent to the desk waited to be filled with returned books, and a little silvered bell sat next to a sign stating, "Please ring once for service." A sneeze echoed from the book stacks, removing the need for the bell. Nolan would be the only person dedicated enough to come into work in that storm. She followed the sound into the forest of floor-to-ceiling shelves. Halfway to the back, a little bald man perched on a wheeled stool meant to help reach the top shelves. He hunched over the pages of a large hardback novel, and his scalp reflected a pinpoint of light from the bulbs tucked into the ceiling. "Morning, Noel." He jerked upright, slipping off the seat. A flounder of limbs and wheels and metal bits erupted until he regained his balance. "Good grief, girl, you frightened the daylights out of me." She had just as many grey hairs as he did, but refreshing their old argument over that condescending term wasn't going to get to the bottom of who was brewing this storm. "I don't suppose you've been outside today?" "Of course. I don't live here, Kathy." "So you caught the scent?" "Nope." Either he was very stupid, or he was lying. "Don't you think it's concerning to have this much snow so early?" "I think you'll find they call it seasonal variation." He took off his wire-rimmed glasses, tucked them in a pocket, and stared at her imperiously. How interesting. Although Nolan only had a smattering of magical talent, whether magic was the easiest to start and the hardest to control, perhaps she hadn't given him enough credit. Storms have a way of getting out of hand, and then people get hurt. I'm sure you wouldn't want that. "I don't know what you're implying." He thumped the book back on the shelf. "And I've got work to do." After he strode back to the front desk, Kathy pulled out the book, Dead of Ice. About halfway through, 2 pages were damaged, most likely from when Nolan dropped it. She flipped to the spot and read the scene, describing a vicious murder in a blizzard. Not quite a smoking gun, but a clue, no doubt. Chipolata shifted her weight to poke her head over the edge of the bag. The little dog looked at Kathy expectantly. "All right, let's go see if Alice left you any treats." As they walked back to the front desk, Chip pawed the edge of the bag. Kathy stroked the little dog's ears. "Later. You can't walk right now." Outside, snow spattered against the windows. The storm had gotten worse over the last few minutes. Now it obscured everything more than a few inches from the glass. Kathy waited by the desk. Nolan ignored her. She coughed. He marked a book and put it on the trolley, and took another without looking up. He was definitely hiding something. She tapped the little bell to get his attention. Chip barked a volley of high-pitched yips along with the ring. Nolan jerked back. "What the?" Kathy smiled. "Just wondering, did Alice leave any apples in her desk?" Nolan pointed to the door. "Dogs aren't allowed in here." "Chipolata's not in here. She's in my bag. Besides, it's awful outside. Not fit for man nor beast. Surely you wouldn't throw an old dear like me out into that just because you didn't bother to look up and I had to tap your little bell thingy." His finger remained steadily pointing. "You know the rules." "Yes, I do." Kathy smiled. Do you? Nolan tilted his head. What's that supposed to mean? I don't know. What does it mean? Surely he remembered the first rule of magic. So long as it harm none, do as you will. You're doing my head in, that's what. And if you want something from Alice, why don't you ask her yourself? She's in the office. Now that was unusual. Alice never came to work before noon. Kathy strode through the stacks to the little door at the back of the building. On the other side, a plump woman with a halo of strawberry blonde curls sat behind a large desk stacked high with newspapers, books, and envelopes. She looked up from her keyboard. Kathy, what on earth are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing. Alice chuckled. Gemma had a big homework project due tomorrow. I promised to bring her in to do some research. Thank goodness the storm started after we got here, but I'm not sure how we'll get home again. If Alice was here when the storm started, she would have been swamped with all the detritus of bureaucracy, not exactly conducive to spellcasting. Have you spoken to Nolan? Did he seem a bit strange this morning? Alice wrinkled her nose. You mean more strange than normal? I mean suspiciously strange. Maybe a hint of magic? Specifically rose and patchouli? No, just his regular smell of bacon and mold. Now my Gemma, she's the one that smells of roses. Where is Gemma? In the archives, I suspect. Took the elevator down when we got here. You let her go down there on her own? Kathy's gut twisted at the thought of having to discipline her friend's daughter. She's a fully qualified witch. Yeah, and she's also too young to know how to gauge the consequences just by reading a spell. Oh, she's not casting. She's got an English report. Just wanted to look at the old newspapers. Well, let's go have a look ourselves, shall we? I don't know what you're so worried about. She's a good kid. Of course she is. But if she's been down there for hours, probably time for a tea break. Alice sighed, but grabbed a set of keys and got up. They went back through the book stacks to a little elevator near the front door. Alice put her key in and pressed the button for the basement. When the door opened, a cloud of eye-watering patchouli incense blew over Kathy and Alice. In the middle of the room, 5 blue candles burnt down to tiny stubs around a shivering Gemma. Her teal body warmer, plaid skirt, and furry pink Ugg boots were no match for the icy magic. It was a perfect disguise, though. No one outside the coven would imagine was a witch. There was no black, warts, or anything even remotely ugly about her. Chipolata squirmed in Kathy's tote, growling at the gloom. Yes, I know. You can take it down, but gently. Kathy set the sausage dog on the floor. She galloped across the dusty concrete with her propeller tail wagging and knocked over the candles. The magic bubble burst. Gemma sagged to one knee. The dog jumped up, licking her face and yipping. Chip? Gemma looked up as Kathy flipped the overhead lights on. Oh, crap. Indeed. Give me one reason why I shouldn't strip you of your rank and power right here. Kathy crossed her arms. I just wanted to help, with the climate stuff. Everybody says it's getting too warm. I just thought I should do something. Gemma stroked the dog with a shaking hand. Kathy frowned. That's what this is about? Global warming? Alice looked at her friend. Worry lined her face with wrinkles. She meant well, and she's too young to know this is too big for one person. Don't do anything rash. Kathy wrinkled her nose. Rash is the one thing I've never been, but you are right. Alice smiled. Oh, thank you. Kathy cracked her knuckles. We all should do something about global problems. Call the rest of the coven, Alice. We have a spell to cast. If you've enjoyed this section, please like and subscribe. New chapters will be recorded weekly.